Did you know one of the first major steps toward the American Revolution wasn't a tax, but a law affecting paper money? Yes, for those of you who watched my video yesterday, this is a follow-up to that one. So long before protests and boycotts, England took control of the colonies' currency, and colonists took it pretty personally. After Massachusetts introduced the idea in 1690, the idea spread fast, and by the early 1700s, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, and the Carolinas had all joined Massachusetts issuing some form of paper currency. It's not because they loved economic experiments, but because silver and gold were so scarce. Taxes had to be paid, soldiers had to be paid, and trade had to continue. Paper money filled that gap quite nicely. So to the colonies, it was just practical. But to England, it was starting to look pretty dangerous. England wanted the colonies dependent on British trade, British banks, and the British-controlled gold and silver. And colonial paper money threatened that system. It was reducing the reliance on British coin and giving the colonies a tremendous amount of economic independence. And biggest of all, it was obliterating British creditors. Bottom line, British creditors often loaned colonists money or sold goods on credit. And they were expecting repayment in silver. Now they were being repaid in colonial paper. And the colonial courts were making them accept it. So they begin to pressure Parliament, and Parliament responds with a law. In 1751, Parliament passed the Currency Act of 1751, restricting paper money's use in a few of the colonies. Then in 1764, Parliament passed a much stronger Currency Act of 1764, and that one affected all the colonies. This law stripped colonial paper of its legal power. Paper could no longer be used to pay private debt. Creditors could demand gold or silver, and courts were no longer able to force creditors to accept paper. You gotta figure, for decades now, farmers, workers, and merchants were paid in paper, but now rent was demanded in coin, and debts were enforced in silver. So from the colonial point of view, the message was quite clear. First, England undermines their money, crippling their local economies. Then England increases their taxes. The way they saw it, Parliament decided that was it, overriding anything their colonial governments had to say. The Currency Act was one of the first major insults that affected everyday colonial life and helped fuel the American Revolution, even though it's pretty often overlooked. Thank you so much. If you stuck around to this point, here's your extra tidbit. Colonial paper money came in fixed denominations, from a single shilling up to multiple pounds. And if you're American like me and shillings just don't make sense, it took 20 shillings to make 1 pound. And to put that in perspective for the time, a laborer made about a shilling a day. A skilled craftsman might make 2 to 3, and professionals were still paid in an amount that made a single pound represent weeks worth of work. So next time you're in a relationship and one person controls the bank account, just remember that kind of financial imbalance has been causing fights for centuries. And as always, have a wonderful day.